vai tiedättekö, että joku olisi vielä vessassa tai muualla? Vaikuttaisi, että kaikki ovat paikalla, eli eiköhän tässä aloitella. Mahtavaa, että olette päässeet tänne Espoon valtuustosaliin.
Espoon Council Hall.
Tervetuloa Aalto-yliopiston
Welcome to Aalto University Represent Council Meeting 7/2020.
Nyt on keskiviikko
It's Wednesday, 10th June, and it's 5:23 p.m. Opening the meeting.
Suljetaan kohta 1, siirrytään kohtaan
Closing item
2.
1, moving to item 2, recording members of the council who are unavailable, disqualified, ineligible, resigned, and present.
Elina, ole hyvä.
Yes, kiitos.
Yes, thank you.
No niin, nyt. Hyvä. Alkaa iltaa.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you live. Since we are in this actual meeting hall, we have microphones. When we speak, press the speaker button and the microphone should turn red. The light there. And you always have to press to put the microphone on. Yes, let's start the roll call.
Eli voitte nostaa sellaisen hopean jutun ylös ja sitten pitäisi tulla punainen valo siihen mikrofoniin.
Sitä ei tarvitse siis pitää myöskään pohjassa, kuten itse ensimmäisen.
And you don't have to press the button down when speaking. No, että se voi vähän esi hirveästi häiritsemät, kun se vähän kuuluu. Ei se niin kovaa kuuluu.
Mun pitää painaa joka kerran jälkeen tää pois.
Ai Elina, sä voit puhua tällaisen hienon mustaan mikkiin.
And you can speak in this black microphone. You have to turn that on. It's wonderful technology. Testing, 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 testing. Yes. Kohan se nyt kuuluu sit. Joo. Mut se kuuluu nyt kuitenkin sitten striimissä. Joo. Yes, also the interpretation technology should be working now.
Paikalla. Yes, Järvinen Erik. Paikalla. Yes, Järvinen Emma.
Sun punainen valo. Paikalla.
Emma oli siis paikalla. Joo, mainiota. Anteeksi, mä en nyt näe, että missä. Tää on niin laaja tää sali herran tähden. Polari Visa. Paikalla. Joo. Hienoa. Laitinen Otto.
Juu.
Yes, Lukkanen Julius.
Paikalla.
Yes, Pilman Emil.
Rouva toiminnanjohtaja.
Kiitos. Myllykangas Taneli.
Paikalla.
Yes, Hukkanen Topi.
Juu.
Yes, Häikö Hannu.
Paikalla.
Mainiota. Kanu Apura. Yes. Halsas Anna.
Paikalla.
Hieno. Hakola Roni.
Paikalla.
Yes. Yläpoikalus Niko.
Paikalla.
Yes. Virtanen Eletra.
Paikalla.
Yes. Nikola Laura.
Paikalla.
Tuominen Kiia.
Paikalla.
Lammi Pekka.
Punainen mikki löytyy vielä tuolta. Voiko painaa nappuja? Kiitos.
Paikalla.
Hienoa. Kiitos. Kamppunen Edith.
Paikalla.
Yes. Ulström Edward.
Paikalla.
Mainiota. Nurmi Wilhelm.
Paikalla.
Yes. Pitsen Pietari.
Paikalla.
Yes. Ripatti Vili.
Paikalla.
Yes. Nurmi Joona.
Paikalla.
Sain ainakin sen tiedän. Pakkinen Aleksanteri.
Paikalla.
Yes. nimeä ei mainittu.
Someone whose name was not mentioned.
Siellä on.
Yes, we have one. Yes.
Sanotko vielä sun nimen? Ja ryhmän.
Usvajärvi Otto, vapaus valita.
Kiitos. Pieni hetki.
Thank you. Just a moment.
Ja oliko muita?
Anyone else?
Vielä tarkistan, että oliko Siira Valtteri siis paikalla vai ei.
And is Siira Valtteri present?
Paikalla.
Yes, present.
Mainittu.
Excellent. Thank you.
Se on ihan alun säätö, meni vähän sekaisin siitä. Mutta eipä hätiä, meillä on 33 läsnä olevaa.
Yes, we have 33 members present. 33 members that represent council present. And also we grant the right to speak to employees and interpreters. Anyone else who needs to be granted the right to speak or to be present? Apparently no. Closing item 2. Moving to item 3, recording the lawfulness and quorum of the meeting. We're lawful when there are at least 25 members representing council present and the chairperson. And this has been fulfilled. And also the invitation has been sent to the mailing list 7 days prior to the meeting and on the bulletin board and on the website. So the meeting is lawful and has quorum. Move to item 4, summonizing two scrutinizers of the minutes and two vote counters. So as before, we will select two scrutinizers and two vote counters and deputy members for both. And I propose that we will do as before, so that the vote scrutinizer of the minutes are deputies for the vote counters and vice versa. Any volunteers? Volunteer as a scrutinizer of the minutes. It's great that we have people who want to scrutinize the minutes, but also would like to see new people. Emil has scrutinized many minutes, so also would like to see new people. So if it's okay with you, we could appoint someone else. But Emil says that he wants to be a scrutinizer. Luukkanen Skisma, I'm available as a scrutinizer of the minutes. So Emil and Julius will be the scrutinizers of the minutes. Vote counters. Lammi, I'm available. Excellent, thank you. So now we have 4 persons available as scrutinizers of the minutes and their deputies. Yes, this has been decided. Closing item 4, moving to item 5, confirming the agenda. Does anyone have anything to add or comment to the agenda? Apparently no, so we can confirm the agenda for the meeting. Closing item 5, moving to item 6, announcements. Any announcements to make? Emil? To announce that summer has now officially started. Yes, I'd also like to announce that we are having the meeting in the Espoo Council Hall, which is an exceptional situation. Any other announcements? Apparently no. Closing item 6, moving to item 7. Economic review from January to March 2019. Presented to us by Elina. Can I present it from here?
puheenpönttössäkin voi olla, että se on varmaan, mikä tuntuu susta niin hyvältä, niin anna mennä.
If you can hear this on the stream, can I speak here? Yes, thank you. Monica unfortunately couldn't make it here today, so I'll be presenting this budget monitoring and also the financial statement. So this is from the first quarter of 2020, not 2019 as it reads in the agenda. Here you can see the result of the corporate cooperation, in addition to other activities. Our core functions are well within budget. And also supportive functions. We have exceeded the budget somewhat, as you can see. And in the next slides you can see why. But otherwise we are within budget or under the budget. Here you can see more detailed information about our fundraising. That's just predictive figures, not yet realized figures. Also, as you can see in our sponsor agreement, the corporate cooperation, we are very much in the red because of the coronavirus, among other things. So we haven't reached the budget there, we have exceeded it, which affects this whole entity of the fundraising. And in advocacy, there's nothing much to say about this. We are well within the budget. Our personal costs are also within the budget. And we had very little costs related to advocacy at the start of the year. We haven't used all the money that has been budgeted for advocacy work. And there are community functions. Here we can see the biggest thing, the events, which is very hard to predict because of the coronavirus and its implications. So in the events we are somewhat in the red, but there are some profits missing here and also some expenses related to events. So it's not yet been entered here for the quarter. So these numbers are changing all the time and it's very difficult to predict this year the event budget. Of course we try to keep within the budget and modify our operations accordingly. But it's inevitable that we have to cancel events because of the coronavirus, which causes both savings and expenses. We'll have the questions at the end of the presentation or now. It's up to you. Yes, maybe if we had questions at the end, because I only have a couple of slides left. We can get back to the questions a bit later. There's nothing much big kind of mentions or highlights regarding this. Deal on member services. You can see here that our Smökki facilities have not yet been rented out, which really reflects to the situation, financial situation here. That's the biggest item of expenditure, the rental of facilities. As of Aino magazine, there are yet no expenses have actually realized for the report that was requested regarding Aino. Then our administrative costs. Here we're also very well within the budget. So made some kind of streamlining here and have been able to cut down on the costs. So for administration, we're doing very well.
No sit vielä tosiaan tässä näkyy viestinnän.
Here we can see the communications, expenses,
Henkilöstökuluista, mutta ei mitään
and in personnel costs we have gone a bit over the budget,
haastava ennakoida
and it's always very challenging to predict everything
pientä muutosta.
related to these issues, but only very small differences compared to the budget. And also the expenses for the student calendar have not yet been realized. So that's why it's very much in the black. Then we have the support functions,
Nyt näkyy se, että mistä johtui siinä yhteenvetosivulla se, että
and here we can see
jonkun verran enemmän miinuksella.
why the support functions are so much in the red. It's mostly because
Budjetin ylitys johtuu
in our IT costs we have gone very much over the budget,
kirjattu kaikkia
because previously we haven't entered all the costs actually related to IT to this item. And also we made some new acquisitions
ei enää jatkossa tehdä.
which have previously been entered in the balance sheet, but we will not do that anymore. We will enter it here. So that's why the figures are so big here.
Jonkunlaisia tietoteknisiä hankintoja myös pystytty tekemään sen takia, että
And also we have made some new purchases to enable our new kinds of meetings, remote meetings in the spring. But as you all know,
tietotekniikka on semmoinen,
this IT is an item that we all want to invest in to move things forward. That's about it. Now we can have the questions. If you have anything to ask, say about this quarterly review. Vilma Voltti, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. First, from the 5th slide, we have the personnel costs in the community operations. Here you can see that our realized figures have increased by 21.4% compared to last year. So has the number of personnel also increased permanently? Do we have 31% more personnel compared to last year?
lisäyksiä sen suhteen,
Yes, there are some new additions.
nostettiin asumisen puolen viestintään, niin meillä on
So when we focused more on the housing communications, we had specialists related to that,
panos siirrettiin sitten
whose focus was moved to this housing communications, the community expert.
puoli, ja sitten siihen lisättiin myös niin kuin tämä, että
And also in the member
uudet opiskelijat ja
association side,
strategian mukaan halutaan
a new person for alumni and new students. So we have new personnel here compared to last year.
on myös siirretty siis sisäisesti
We have both transferred internally and also added new personnel.
juurikin nämä kustannuspaikkasiirrot, mistä varmasti on.
But also when this transfer of costs
Siinä vaikuttaa myös sit se, että siellä niin kun, henkilöt on laitettu eri
affects because they are in different kind of different items, then it also increases the costs here since they're in a different place than before. So it's not this big an increase in the number of personnel. And then on slide 6 about facility costs.
Joo, eli mistä nämä kulut meille niin muodostuu, että sijoitaanko nyt tyhjää tilaa vai
So where are these expenses? Where do they come from? From the empty spaces, or why is this so much in the red? Because if we don't use the spaces, then it will make sense that they don't incur that much costs, the facilities, if they are not in use. Well, they are kind of Smökki makes loss in the maintenance costs, even if it's in use. So and there are costs even if it's not used. But then in addition to that, we don't get the rental profits from it, because we have to heat the buildings, and there are some costs even though they're not in use. But we don't clean them, of course, since they're not in use, so there are no so-called unnecessary costs here.
mietin, koska mekin tappiot tulee lähinnä just siivouksesta.
Thinking that because most losses are from the heating and cleaning at Smökki, and if something breaks down. But heating has kind of
Mistä nämä
constitutes much of the expenses here, or yes, but there are other facilities besides Smökki. So And the last question, I think we had different documents. Is this the updated document? Is this available somewhere? Because on slide 7 there's a significant difference to the one we received.
näkyvissä.
Tuossa yhteisöjäsenyyksessä.
Joo.
Joo. Siinä oli tosiaan kirjausvirhe tapahtunut, joka
Yes, in the associate membership costs there was an error there, so we had to fix that, but we can send you the updated
niin se huomattiin tuossa
document, because we noticed it just a couple of days ago. Yes, but thank you for pointing that out.
Onko muita puheenvuoropyyntöjä?
Have any other requests for floor, questions?
Jos ei ole, niin kiitos Elina.
If no, then thank you, Elina.
Eli jos ei ole enää puheenvuoropyyntöjä,
No other requests for floor, so we can close the discussion
siirrytään päättämään.
and make the decision. The Representative Council decided to record the economic review for Q1 from January to March 2020. Similarly decided, moving to item 8, signing the Aalto University Student Union's management report and financial statements
Allekirjoitus ja esittäminen edustajistolle.
for the year 2019 and presenting them to the Representative Council, and Elina will present this as well.
There we can see the correct presentation. Hopefully you've had time to look at this appendix in addition to the meeting notice. I won't go through it detailedly, but here you can see the timetable. The board decided to further elaborate this on the 24th, 28th, and then on the 29th we got the translations in April, and on the 30th the auditor's report and signature. The Financial Real Estate Committee has gone over the matters on the 7th of June, and now we are here to sign it. And here we have all the relevant documents and all the appendices and auditing reports. I'll go through this document based on the observations made by the auditing firm KPMG. First off, as a reminder on what our consortium structure looks like. So you can see the numbers here and the observations. So in the consortium we have the student union, mother company, including the organizational activities and housing. In Otaniemi, then as a daughter company, we have AYYE Palvelu Oy limited company, completely parts, and then we also have the real estate companies. You can also see the listings on the right on what we own 100% and what we own partially. And here on how the consortium results have been formed, based on the AYYE results, biggest numbers over there. Also last year, in 2019, we also got the sales profits for the AYYE shares. And then the other write-ups consist mainly of eliminations of internal shares, consortium removals, and housing co-op dismantlings. And the balance sheet shows an end of 114.7 million and the consortium balance with 167.3 million. The consortium results. Some notices that the consortium's results went up by 803,000. The change is mainly due to the fact that the student activity profits are on the rise. The fund gathering mainly comes from membership fees and are pretty much on last year's basis. Investment and financial profits also include the AYYE Oy sales profits and the changes in market value, totaling about 574,000 about. And then in addition we have this AYYE Palvelu Limited results depiction has been changed. This balance sheet and the AYYE Palvelu result has been shown in the consortium profit results in a different place. It was usually in organizational activities, now it's in student housing. This is mainly due to the fact that AYYE Palvelu Oy is mainly working with real estate and housing. So it doesn't work the other part. On the consortium balance level, the main fundings for the consortium break down what they consist of. A large portion of our real estate constructions, some which are ongoing, some which are completed. We have about 86 million on ongoing construction 19. We also have the renovations work at Jämärän Taival 3, 5 and 7. So funds and bank gains has been clarified to the bank statements on the 31st of December 2019. Our own funds consist of the Teekkarikylän Kappelirahasto Fund and the Teekkaritoiminnan Edistämisrahasto Fund. So have the other tie-in funds consist of 21 different kinds of funds inherited from TKY. And the funds have been ensured by the auditing company. Long-time debts consist of bank loans. The loans match the bank's confirmations, and the portion of the short-term debt is depicted as it should. The calculation basics were checked and verified. Also have the auditor's report, so the consortium structure and how it's created, the bases. A consortium has not undergone through any changes during the auditing period, and all the basics and tenements have stayed the same. The result is that AYY's balance sheets are correct and show the required information as pertained by law of the consortium's financial situation, and they have been drafted according to legislation that's in effect. Auditing, internal monitoring and relating activities have been arranged as they should be, and there have been no discrepancies verified by the auditing company during the auditing process. So nothing to report out of the ordinary. All the audits are as legislation demands them to be. So I may open up the document if needs be. So a collection of documents, if you need to open it up more, I can do so. Before opening the discussions, I want to remind the representative councillors that deciding and approving of this is one of our legally mandated tasks of the student unions representative council. Our regulations state that we have a meeting within certain timetables to decide on these. So we need to approve this. And this is an odd time because of the coronavirus, because we haven't had the opportunity to do the meeting during April, or by April as is usually pertinent. Emil. I could not find this document anywhere. Has this been submitted to us, or this has not been submitted to you? This is just for presentation, but you may request it. Can be delivered. Any other requests for the floor?
Tulkitsen, että ei ole, joten
I interpret that no, so thank you, Elina, for the presentation.
ja päätänähän se keskustelu sitten pitää.
So, closing discussions, and we will move to decide.
Esityksenä oli, että
The motion is that the Council decide to confirm the management report and financial statements for 2019 and to leave the surplus of 2019 totaling at 2,061,698.93 euros on the surplus and deficit account decided.
suljetaan kohta 2.
Closing item 8. Moving on to item 9. Granting freedom of liability to board members and other responsible parties in 2019.
Pykälä 12 ja 14 kohdan mukaisesti edustajiston
The Representative Council will decide on granting freedom of liability to the board members. And this item, as we decided, is that the accounting board, auditing company, has granted the statement of liability. So here, as the chairperson of the board of the Representative Council, I would like to propose that we grant freedom of liability to the board members and other responsible parties in 2019. Do you have people who are consider themselves unable to decide on the idea? Ylä-Kangas Voltti considers themselves unable to decide. So, meaning this is an individual who is one of the people being granted liability, last year's board member. So are there others here? Others also present, so that this be noted that they will not be deciding on the matter. Any questions or requests for the floor for this item?
eipä ole, joten
No?
voin
So I may joyously announce that the Council decided to grant freedom from liability to the board and members and other responsible parties in 2019 and decided.
perinteisesti tässä kohtaa
Traditionally, we would have at this stage,
saattaisi olla myös
we might have
hallituspaikalla.
last year's board present here, but because of the coronavirus, they are not here.
Kahden edustajiston jäsenen verran.
We only let 2 of them in.
Tietenkin täällä istuva Olli, joka ei.
And of course, Olli, who's sitting here, who's not deciding.
Suljen kohdan 9.
Closing item 9.
Ehdotankin, että
At this stage, I
Hollannin virvokkeita, jos haluat nauttia.
propose a short break. We still have some refreshments we may gobble up, and we have a break at 17:55.
Selvä, odotellaan
One
hetken.
person, let's wait for them for a minute.
Kaksi paikalla ja... Joo.
No niin, jos kaikki on paikalla, niin...
So, as everybody's here, let's continue with the meeting. So, continuing the meeting at 6:08. Moving on to item 10, the subsistence allowances in the coronavirus situation. In the meeting 6/2020, we decided to continue this and show this situation, return this to preparation, and now this has been prepared. So today we should make a decision on the matter. Olli, please. Thank you. If I can get the material up there. Excellent. Good evening or afternoon. Dear Representative Council, let's go through the grants for the corona situation item again. Hopefully all of you have had the time temerity to discuss look at the email discussions on the subject. Hopefully you've gone back to the issues and pondered them that we discussed. There will be lots of revision in the presentation, so if there's somebody here for the first time listening about the subject through the stream, you should be more than able to catch up. The red ones are new items and black text is the same. So if through the stream somebody cannot recognize me, I am at the AYYE board president Olli Kesseli. We have a cross-sectorial team because this consists of lots of issues that pertain to many levels of AYYE activities. At the same time, when you can get to look at the agenda, I will go through the shortened presentation version, if this is a new thing. So the proposal is mainly based on AYY's tenant requests to lower or cancel rent for the coronavirus situation time. Currently we are unable to decide on this, and this actually is based on the very real worry that because we have international students who are not eligible for support financially, so which will lead to evictions, which will in the end lead to increased rent for other tenants. Also, on the international student situations and make their situation easy, we haven't had the opportunity to find out any better opportunities, and for this proposed monetary sum from AYY's funds, 150,000, this is a top sum. This will not be handed out if we do not have any real needy applications with grounds for receiving aid. At the latest, we should note that AYY's financials are quite complex. So this, when we're talking about the budget, where we discuss very different kinds of monies when we discuss, for example, investments than these kinds of one-term fundings. The sixth point is that on the part of Tekkari students, technical students, it's pretty simple because at this situation, technical students may receive aid from the Onni ja Niina Tarjanne Fund. But because we also represent other parties than just technology students, we want to find a solution that benefits all parties and all members. The process needs to be transparent, but individual information should be handled confidentially through an anonymization is the only process that we've seen as adequate. At the same time, you probably had the time to read the agenda. First off, we'll go through the background, then we'll go through the grant and grant application process, and for the final part, we'll have the proposal and discussion based on the template that the board has provided. So open up some of the background which we are discussing here today. The coronavirus is known to many from media, has created an exceptional situation globally, but also on a local level for a lot of students, which has led to, with some students to cancellations of labor and of course the domestic income lessening. Also, so basically subsistence problems. This enables, of course, the fact that leads to the point where we have income that we've not received. We might have people halting their studies, problems with coping, and at the very worst is that they might end up negative response to continued staying in Finland and leading to eviction and banishment from Finland. So we are actually talking regarding students who are not within the social support system. The need assessment, if you've looked at this issue, you've noticed that the needs assessment has been the biggest challenge here. Here I should present the best evaluations and estimates on what needs the students have regarding the subject and what we've aimed to accomplish. So the assessments are based mainly on contact requests and petitions and the survey we just continued. We've received a lot of answers to the survey in the 8 days which it has been open. It's still open. We also had a petition signed by 150 students on demanding rental discounts. And this was included some students from Arts University. The survey will be open after this meeting, but these results have been taken yesterday, so not conclusive results yet. Also good to notify that we have a total of 1,947 international tuition students in all. Results from the survey from last night. So far we had 145 respondents, 122 out of which study outside of Aalto. So we have non-AYYE 72%, other AYYE 28%. In terms of majors, arts 40%, biz 14%, and tech 46%. So, as we thought, this is focused on art students, at least very partially. Also, on the right and eligibility for Social Security, 19% are eligible for Social Security, 13% yes in their home country, and most of which, 69%, are not sure or do not have eligibility for any Social Security. Also, one situation is visible also in that If in Finland, can you return to home safely? Yes, 25, not sure 44, and no 31. On which situation your studies are, about half need more time to complete their studies and 52% say they are on time, ahead of time 1%. So on the question on how has COVID-19 affected your livelihood, negatively 74%, no impact 20%, and positive impact 6%. Then these issues from the survey, which have been highlighted, the most problematic or stressful factors is a multiple choice question. So here we go over 100%. There are three most highlighted items creating stress and worry are studies, mental health and well-being, and livelihood. Then on how the funding of subsistence-related expenses has been undertaken by these students is about a bit over a half from support from parents and relatives. This is why we're talking about the weakening of monetary resources from your home country. 40% have savings, so this is a multiple choice, of course, so over 100% in the results. Part-time work 38%, full-time work 11%, scholarship 11%, student loan 8%, social security 5%, and other 2%. And in addition, 34% of the respondents expressed that COVID-19 has had an impact on the funding of their living expenses. For example, when we think about what kind of number is very interesting in terms of this decisions, I'd say this 34% is that we'll say that the COVID-19 situation has affected their lives in terms of subsistence. So in terms of respondents for the survey, we're talking about a bit less than 50 people. Then on a more broader scope, on the open answers section, on a quick glance, the largest challenge that arose was that we have cancellations regarding part-time work. It's also mentioned in the last meeting of the Rhodes Council, the most recognizable portion of people are the freelance/part-time employed individuals. Clear lessening on the amount of work, or somebody in their family has lost their jobs if their family's income affects their subsistence. From open answers, we also had some critical responses on why we've not managed to cut down the rent, why can't we help the students, or why isn't the university helping the students. The open answers also reiterate and highlight challenges in paying the rent. Also, on the group chair people's meeting, we wanted more information on the urgency of the situation. So when we're discussing students outside of EU and ETA students, and when we are discussing permits for residing in Finland, permits are individual, but 46% from the survey respondents must update their residence permit between June and September. So June and September are the deadlines. Between June and September, if we want to affect this urgent situation, or if we only discuss residency permits in Finland. More evaluations on people requiring assistance, 34%, but less than 50 people have responded that they do not have or do not know if they have their adequate funds to cover their cost of living and/or tuition fees. 13% of the respondents say that they do not have adequate funds to cover the cost of their living and/or tuition fees. And our best guess is calculated from this, based on the survey, is 0.13 times the number of all international degree students. I will highlight is that this is incomplete data, but with this data given, have individuals who have, when we discuss this 13%, we multiplied by the number of all international degree students, we reside at about 256 students in total. Then to conclude, that we decided or discussed in the last meeting on long-term goals. Based on this, AYYE made a statement called Integration and Solutions to Challenges Faced by International Students Are Needed Now. This was made in a synchronized manner with SUL, so that SUL could publish their statement to boost the message on a national level. In addition, this AYYE survey template has been shared to other student unions. And why this statement was done is that it was made for the openness, advocacy and long-term discussions. That it also enables opening discussion roads to, for example, Migri and the city of Espoo. The positive is that the Ministry of Education is undergoing discussions on the situation of international students, but the fear is that no concrete results will be made fast enough. So, these urgent situations when we're discussing these funds. In addition, we've continued the advocacy work, but we have not received new solutions from these directions. So, what are AYY's opportunities to support the students? In the last meeting, the European Council looked at implications on spending AYYE funds. I hope that is pretty familiar to you. You may ask questions. There will be some detailed information in this presentation regarding this item. AYYE can offer their members financial support in terms of handouts or stipends, or scholarships, and the technical students have the Onni and Iida Tarjanne Memorial Fund, and from other people can receive from AYYE. A scholarship is the easiest way to support because there is a framework for handing out scholarships. In addition, the Financial Real Estate Committee has made a statement regarding the situation after request is that if the majority decides to use the funds of the student union to help and aid members, especially international students, at this I reiterate this is an ideological decision, is that this cannot be done by the Financial Real Estate Committee. This must be done by the Representative Council. They can aid the Representative Council in making a decision. If we have the will, the Financial Real Estate Committee recommends that this process be carried out as fast as possible, maximum of 3 months rent and a maximum of 1,500 per member. And a reminder is that cuts on rent are not possible. Discounts on rent are not possible due to ARA legislation. Then we also expressed the option of a loan, that we could, instead of a scholarship, we should give loans. And especially Monika's point of view is that in the time-critical situation, which is quite acute, we should not start creating new processes in a hurry. The AYYE's Financial Directorate does not encourage urgent long-term binding processes for which sufficient limited resources are not already allocated. Therefore, the loan option is not seen as a good alternative to meet the urgent need. And it could also be, we've discussed at the office that it could be potentially problematic for Equality to give grants to the funds from the fund to some and provide loans to others.
And for the actual grant and the grant application details, well, the same things that we talked about at the last meeting. Just so that everyone is on track. This can be funded as a one-time expenses from the Onni and Iida Saranne Fund, and also from the TTE Fund. As we emphasized that for technical students there are no financial implications since the fund exists just for a purpose like this. And we will also adhere to the foundation's regulations. There's approximately 800,000 euros in this fund, and we can use that money just for this purpose. And for other students, we will mainly use our investments, but to a maximum of 150,000 euros. And because of the one-time nature of the decision, it will not have long-term financial implications, because our finances are built on a base that enables such one-time expenses to benefit students. And we talked about this more in detail in the last meeting. It's beforehand, it's difficult to predict the division of the applications between different student groups. We may have some kind of predictions make from the surveys, but of course we cannot get any kind of final information from them. We may presume very well that there would be business and art students applying, which is why we need to have this 150,000 euros limit. And from the AYYYE Foundation, we can hand out the money as long as we adhere to the fund's regulations. And as I said in the beginning, this is the maximum amount, and we of course will not give out this maximum amount if there are not enough students applying or enough needy students who need it. And in more detail, what's this really about? Well, this started from these requests that we received about rents. So this is one-time assistance for students to pay their rent. And what's noteworthy here is that a significant number of our members live in AYYE's or HOASI's apartments. So some of these these grants that we would give, we would actually receive back through the rents. And also this would help mitigate having our apartments empty if people can't pay the rent. Those are the criteria and applying. The preliminary requirements for the grant. Of course, we'll start to go these into detail if you approve this motion. The requirements are that all AYYE members can apply based on need and case-by-case basis to those whose subsistence has been affected by this exceptional situation. And this primarily to degree students, and primarily the students who are not covered by social security, such as Kela's benefits. And in the process, we consider the applicant's financial situation and the special confidentiality and sensitivity of this grant process is also taken into account. Our student situations are very different, so we always assess these applications on a case-by-case basis. The application is done through an online form, so this is kind of a practical side. It is done as indicated by the board in the following way. This is just a preliminary model. So the answers, the applicant should answer the following questions. Why do they need this grant? How has COVID affected their financial situation negatively? And the amount of support needed, contact details, statement of financial situation, and other proof to support the applicant's answers. For example, their bank account statement, reports from their workplace or residence permit. And we talked about this in the chairperson meeting, and we'll talk about it also in the future, because, for example, a bank statement is not comprehensive, does not provide comprehensive information on a person's assets or solvency. This person may have several bank accounts. Today is 10th June, so this is up for the representative decision, and if you approve of it, we will start the process and try to make the decisions at the start of July. So this is different from the last meeting, because we really don't have the time to do it yet, make the decisions yet in June. And as I mentioned previously, the schedule is very tight, especially for people who need to renew their residence permits. Of course, we can discuss about this point, but now the proposal is that if it is approved, the aim is to open the applications round as soon as possible. And also if the circumstances leading to giving out grants worsens, for example, with a new COVID wave, then we can continue the process with the sum decided by the board. And some other practical issues, distribution committee, proposal for that. For this composition, it would have one board member responsible for international affairs, policy specialist responsible for international affairs, housing advisor, producer, 1 to 2 members appointed by the representative council, and a financial committee to approve the process. That's a very cross-sectoral project, and we need expertise from many different sectors. And we have 1 to 2 members here because we have this kind of similar model than when giving out scholarships. So this is to make the process more as efficient as possible. And at the last meeting, we also talked about equality and its realization. So here's kind of details about that. In general, AYYE should treat its members equally, regardless of the personal characteristics, as long as the criteria for the grant applied by our members are clear and the applications are evaluated on the same basis. AYYE can be seen to act in an equal manner. The grant can be needs-based, which means that the need of the applicant will be assessed based on the application, and the selection can be based on that. If the distribution grant is intended to help students who are not within social security or in a vulnerable situation because of their financial situation, then the support can be considered to promote equality between these students when in relation to students who have better financial situation. And also this is from the Non-Discrimination Act. As you can see here, the quote. The implementation of the Non-Discrimination Act is monitored retrospectively, if necessary, by the Non-Discrimination Ombudsman. That's the background for that. Next we will have the discussion and questions. Discussion about the topic. I'd like to remind you that if you want to make proposals for change, they should be done through the form found on inside. So first we have a general discussion, then we'll go through the proposals for change, and then if we need to vote, then we will vote. I want to remind you that we have a very constructive discussion with good arguments, and try to keep your speeches short. I'd like to make 2 points related to the discussion, which I think are important. First, the Onni ja Niina Tarjanne fund, its existence, shouldn't affect how people see this matter. Because as I see it, the funds in this fund are not AYYE's, they are Onni ja Niina Tarjanne's money, and the board distributes them according to the regulations, regardless of everything else that AYYE does. Which leads to my second point, which is that I think the central question here is, can or should student unions, one of their tasks to be this kind of a mechanism from evening out financial differences between its members? Vilma Voltti. Things were problematic that we are comparing this Tarjanne fund, which we can use to distribute about 20,000 to 40,000 euros according to its regulations, and AYYE's finances. The Tarjanne fund is a fund, so it's not kind of very comparable to talk about technical students and other students, because also arts and business students have funds backing them. For example, the KY Foundation and the Kone Foundation that can support these students' income. We have gathered our finances over a long time, but we have always been in the red in our budget. This year we have also transferred 240,000 euros away from our ongoing operations to real estate. And also our investments have been in the negative because of the pandemic. The finances of the student union will be sustainable and it will endure, but it would also endure if we remove all our property stock. And I also think it's problematic that people haven't really looked into more in depth into the loan option, because we constantly collect money from our members, for example from rents and broking stuff. So we could also use these scholarship regulations for this. And also like to point out the equality, because Kela, that really knows everything about you and also can monitor everything. AYYE cannot monitor or get actual information about its members' financial situation. If we will approve this proposal, AYYE would give money without supervision and would also be discriminatory. This is a very irresponsible proposal, and it's also money away, for example, from the student center, so I cannot agree with this proposal. I'd also like to remind you that 33 represent councils, members only present, and this is a very big significance on the decision that we make, so it's not sustainable to make a decision in a situation such as this.
Kiitos. Seuraavaksi Jenina. Ei ole muita puheenvuoropyyntöjä, eli voit pyytää. Joo, no mulle olisi kysymyksiä 3 kappaletta.
Yes, there are 3 questions.
Tästä ja voitte vastaa ja sitten mä voin kysyä taas. Eli mä en ollut viimeksi kokouksessa.
I wasn't in the meeting last time, but are we giving out these grants to technical students in any case, or are we also deciding on that? Yes, we will act according to the regulations of the fund, so we will give out the money to technical students in any case, regardless of the decision made here, since the board is the entity that decides on giving out the money. So said that 13% of the people who took the survey said that they will not make do without this support. So was there any kind of a division that what field students were in these 13%? What was the division between different fields of study? I really can't answer that. I don't know if we look into that in that much detail. And I'm also wondering, also for the future, could AYYE influence, kind of try to establish within AYYE a fund, the scholarship fund, grant fund, to business and art students? It's a very challenging question. For funds, you always need a kind of the initial capital, and I really don't know where we would use it. We could, in theory, for example, use AYYE's funds to do it, but I'm not sure. We haven't looked into it. Okay, thank you.
So answer the second question. We have a voice here who's speaking. So preliminarily, based on the data, people who have expressed that don't have enough funds in practical terms, we have between arts and tech 50-50 or so. But between these people, based on the very preliminary data, we cannot make these kinds of assumptions. But based on this was Rosa, who was AYYE's international correspondent there.
Aleksandr Paakkinen Vihreämmästä Aallosta.
Alexander Paakkinen, Green Aalto, Vihreämpi Aalto. This is our group speech.
Eli Vihreämpi Aalto
So, Green Aalto support giving this kind of scholarship, even though it does not solve all problems. It's not perfect. It is currently a grounded measure which safeguards equality for many students. Students need assistance, and we need to think of ways to improve things in the long run. But here, the only direct means to achieve results is the direct support. Thank you.
Selvä. Kiitoksia ryhmäpuheenvuorosta. Seuraavaksi Apurva.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. So first, I just wanted to commend the board for taking action since the last meeting. There has been a lot of good discussions between all the groups, so I really appreciate that. My first question is about the committee itself. Like, I saw who will be, like, you had designated spots, but how much power will the committee be given, and how quickly can it be set up? Because I guess time is of the essence. So have you already made plans for when the applications would roll out, or who you would be contacting to put in the committee?
Yeah, I'm actually going to answer in Finnish because you have the translation, right? Yeah, okay.
So, the template for the committee currently exists, discounting the Representative Council members, and the board has proposed that the Representative Council in this meeting, if we decide to approve this, will choose from amongst its members the individuals into this committee. Did I answer the questions, or do you still have something else or other questions?
Yeah, actually I do have a few more questions. Is it okay if I go through all of them, or should I go through them one by one?
How many questions do you have?
5.
Very quickly then, but I would be really glad that if we keep these comments short.
Yes. So the first one is about how many of these students do you think could be under AYYE and HOAS housing? So is there a way to estimate or make the mandate so that most of the money kind of comes back because they are in AYYE housing?
Yeah, that's super difficult to estimate. The best we can get is we can start the estimation from the number that have written the statement or the address, which is 150 people. We take some of those away because they have been from the Arts University, but that's where we could start estimating that. We can't have definite data of that.
Then the next question is, can we make it clear in the mandate that this will be a one-off situation so that this never happens in the future, that they can use this as a way to ask for future grants? Because we know that Corona is a one-off situation. So.
Yeah, kind of hand the ball to the Representative Council on this. The idea is that this is a single-time help for this acute situation, and there's no plan on making this a continuous grant or anything like that. So in a way, it is already stated that this is not a continuous grant, but to actually like prevent it with certainty. I think the Representative Council needs to make a decision on that.
And then maybe I can summarize it to the last question then. How big of an impact can 150,000 actually make, and can we use that as a way to actually pressure or advocate other agencies like we've talked about? And I appreciate that the board already called upon like Migri and Ministry of Education and the City of Espoo to. Do you think it will make a big enough impact on them as well to take action?
Yeah, thanks. Big enough impact is quite difficult to say what is exactly big enough. I'd say this definitely would get some gears rolling. As in my view, this is completely my own opinion, that a lot of the ministry, the universities, all are waiting each other to do some kind of a move, and I believe that by us doing this move could start the gears, but I can't know for sure.
Thanks. That's all for now.
Yes, thank you. And I can't remember, but there was, yes, you're welcome.
So, when the Representative Council in its last meeting gave the board more time, our groups wished that we could have the proposal with updates. We hope that we would have found better means to support the students who might lose their residency permit and more reasons on why not to use the loan model. We seemingly have not found any means, no grounds for why the loan model would not work. This is why we find it quite hard to believe, is that why cannot we use the loan model? I asked the board, has a single bank been contacted? The board has not answered the efficiency of the support in the long run. The financial situation will not get better just by itself. There might be a second wave of corona. People might not get gainful employment. What if when this 150 runs out? We should probably hand more scholarships. So monetary funding is not the way we should act. This kind of acting as a social agency goes over the level of which we mandate our members to pay a mandatory participancy fee. Regardless of the vote result, the advocacy work to solve the problems should be continued, and we should search for means through which we can help these individuals without creating activities that overlap or supersede AYY's reasons for existence. So, in my opinion, this proposal I just went through, we pretty much gave results on why a loan option is not a working model. And me, the AYY financial director, act as a high authority in this subject. So I trust the AYY financial director and also the AYY financial directorate. Banks have not been contacted, but as well we should create a new process to get backing for the loans. We had this discussion on the email side of things. Advocacy work will be continuing, that is for sure. Thank you. No proposals for change have been proposed. Julius and followed by Phelan. So, Luukkanen-Skisma. Well, if our worst case scenario here is that we may buy more time with this system, and by using a little money, what kind of plans do we have in advocacy work, and that the parties which should be handing out the support rather than us, but who are not being able to do so in such a short time frame? What kind of advocacy is being undertaken so that these parties might do that advocacy and support work in the future if we have a second wave? Rosa could maybe answer this. She's the best individual to answer this. Is Rosa here? Yes, can you reiterate the question? Of course. So, reiterating the question, if the worst case scenario is that these AYYE actions only buy more time before the realization of the problems actually happens, do we have a plan to advocate so that during the time that we purchase with this money, so that the parties that should be doing the support but which cannot do so in such a quite a short time, they are large organizations, quite slow. So how do they get their processes up to date before we run out of money regarding this situation? It comes through the YouTube delay. Do you hear me? Let's try again. So, So on the long term, the advocacy work is being undertaken according to our policy paper on very much national questions. There's lots of challenges and legality required. Mainly we have SYL, who will take a large role in this. And like Olli said, we will create a discussion, but the work continues, of course. So I'm also add to the answer what I mentioned in the last meeting is that this corona situation, the main factor is that it's very hard to predict how the situation will change, which is why on a short term we need to iterate our advocacy work and reiterate it. Thank you. Next up, the chairperson, Yläpoikeus Kylterengas. Thank for the board for the preparatory work, lots of discussion, and I thank that you've answered in a timely manner. I'd like to hear from Olli the point of view on that. Would it be purposeful that the Representative Council and its decision work make the mandated recommendations made by the financial directorate, 1,500 per applicant, tied to living expenses? Would it hurt to continue this process? I'd also like to hear, I asked last time in the meeting that how we thought on how to communicate to the groups regarding this. Mainly our members, how do we decide to give this money out? We need to have good, well-formed words on how to use these funds. And we need to be ready for critique and to answer the critique, because we do not have a unanimous decision by the Representative Council. Of course, externally, if we are using this amount of funds, it is an opportunity for AYYE to do strong advocacy. And I'd also like to see how Olli would be in our studio, the TV program next week, to discuss the place of students. For AYYE would be a very, very good point to show how we can take concrete measures. And a separate question is that, has any other student union done any preparatory work akin to what AYYE is doing or following our process? Or everybody's just doing nothing? Thank you. With this previous mentioned change, I would not say that this hinders the process. These changes will probably go by the recommendations in any case. Then I also see this as a very strong opportunity for advocacy. So thank you for this comment. Of course, this will not be used to support our advocacy work, definitely. You had a question at the end there? This was regarding other student unions. How do we communicate this to our own student union and other striking parties? Rosa may answer, maybe if I forgot something, because she's more knowledgeable regarding this situation. The knowledge I have right now is that we've discussed the situation of international students, but no concrete steps have been taken yet. Regarding communications, we do communications on a professional level based on this. This subject, of course, is, as we notice, requires a long presentation, so you're up to date, but within the best of our ability, we communicate to the best of our ability, like I said. Thank you, then Emil. Should I comment shortly the other student unions that were not answered? So because the live stream is a bit behind in terms of time, there's a short delay. Is also me? Yes. So yes. So in other student unions, they have not been taking any measures like this. They made a survey in cooperation with many other student unions. We aim to receive data on a national level for national advocacy, but we will continue. So we'll get data from other universities, but no other student union has been unable to find a solution yet. Thank you, Rosa, for the comment. Now, Emil, please. Also wish to reiterate the essential point is that in Finland, Kela requires people to take a loan, a study loan, if you want to do or want to subsist better in student life. So it's very, very questionable is that we will start handing out free money. I think it would also be pertinent to decide on that whether or not we are handing out money at all, and then we'll start discussing the amounts and preconditions. We are going through the general discussions. If you have a proposal for decision or proposal for change, please do so through the submit format, so we may vote on this. So we need a counter proposal for the current proposal, so we can actually vote them against one another. Pizza vapaus valita. Thank you, Olli, for the answer. Like I said, concerning the loan issue, is like we haven't had the adequate research done into it. If we haven't contacted any bank, even though if we wanted to create a new process, creating a new process hardly is probably more expensive than throwing money to people. The loan model would be better in this, that it would prevent people from misusing it. If we have free money available, there will be people trying to abuse the system. So a loan always comes towards a need. Would it be possible to answer the question of what if the corona situation continues?
Yes, I'm not the financial expert myself, but based on my information that I have, well, we started creating new processes at this point, and this is the message I have received from Monika, financial director. As I understand, is that we're gonna do it with the resources we have. We would need to hire a new employee for AYYE, which is always a financial risk, and would also mean more work for our financial sector, which already has very scarce resources. And to answer your question, well, as I pointed out today and in previous meeting, it's very difficult to predict the corona situation, what will happen, and the action we will take. We will base that on what will actually happen. So if everything turns out better than expected, then this will be enough, this short-term solution, of course. But then, of course, if the situation is worse than expected, then it would be better that students would get the help from state's social services, and for example from the immigration office or the university. Yes, I'd like to remind you, because there have been some speeches that oppose to this proposal, so if you want to submit a counter proposal, please send it via the forum. Next, Apurva.
I had one question about how do we stop the abuse of this kind of a grant application? Because actually one of the reasons we wanted to propose a loan instead of a grant was to avoid people abusing the system. So are there current plans already in place to avoid this kind of abuse? I understand the need for the application to be as open as possible to find the students who really need the help, but are there any strategies in mind that will make sure that we don't allow students to abuse the system and get free money, which was suggested by some members?
Yeah, thanks for the question. This is definitely a process that will start straight after if the representative council decides to approve these grants, but due to the fact that we're, for example, at the moment needing more reasoning, for example, for the loan option on some people's mind or any other more background, we've had to concentrate our resources to get you as much background information to help you with this decision making. So so far we haven't had the possibility to explore the concrete ways of stopping abuse in this kind of a system, but that work will definitely start if the representative council approves this proposal.
Kiitos. Sitten Emil.
Thank you. Next, Emil. Yes, I demand a vote, a close ballot vote on this question, because this does not require a counter proposal if we just have a vote on the decision. Yes, you demand a vote for whether to do something or not. Yes, usually we also have the counter proposal to have it in writing, but as we have done before in our meetings, so I hope that you could send it via the form, the counter proposal, because it's also a decision that we make if you decide not to do anything with the matter. Yes, thank you. That point out it's kind of an equality problem. So if we are now doing this as a one-time thing, then what will happen when we face another crisis and our members need support in financial difficulties? That would be kind of peculiar to say to them that we only did this once, because they're our members in the same way as the current ones are. So there's kind of a one-time nature of this project. I'm not really buying it when considering equality. It's really challenging to see that how this is not equal, because if we talk about this later on in a crisis, then there's a kind of very extensive justification about our sustainable financial base have been presented, and it's also good that you ask for the material to support your decision, but this is a one-time decision as any other kind of decision that AYYE does. So I wouldn't really start comparing these to each other. If you want to hear a radical example, well, if the representative council decides to build the student center, it doesn't mean that we will build a new student center in the future if we make this one-time decision. Any other requests for floor? Yes. Yes, Lammi. Could we use these systems here to have a closed ballot vote? Yes, we can. That's why we tested the system. We can use these microphone systems to do the vote. Because a closed ballot vote has been proposed, and the options are to do as proposed in the agenda or not. There was one person who has proposed closed ballot vote, so do you have a supporter? We need a supporter for this proposal. Yes, I'll support this closed ballot vote. I could point out the thing that I said right in the beginning, that I see this as a kind of a first-time decision that to decide on can student union be used. Is the student union's task to act as a kind of equalizer of financial situation of students? Because I see that in the future, if we face a similar crisis, then this will be used as a basis to support financial situation of students also in the future. if we now approve of this. One more request for floor. And as that's related to the previous one, is that has the board given any thought to how does this work as a kind of preliminary case, the first case, for example, if Ebola spreads to Finland because of climate change? Can we really make sure that this is a one-time decision? Yes, I can answer that, because we'll now decide on this one thing here. So if there's kind of a similar case in the future, it doesn't mean that we will have to decide in a similar way in the future if we have a similar case. We will also decide just on this one thing. But how does this affect the student union's ideology or our future income transfer systems? We haven't discussed this with the board. It's very good that you have pointed this out. This is a very relevant comment about this topic, as it is a very complex topic. But as I mentioned before, as also mentioned via email and the last meeting, I would not see this myself, that we need to take this president point of view into account, but of course you can disagree with me. Hukkanen from Gylterangas. Should AYYE have some kind of a plan on how to kind of train its students for future crises? For example, financial crisis. Is AYYE in a position that we don't talk about new grants, but that we could help people, inform them how to act in situations of crisis in the future? Yes, that's an interesting suggestion. It's very possible to do that in the future. Thank you. Any other requests for a floor? I'd like to remind you that we had two proposals for change and also one proposal change that needs a supporter. So who wants to revoke this decision, then you have to submit it as a counter proposal. So any other request for floor? The general discussion? Apparently no. I haven't received any proposals through the form. Where did you get them from? Yes, I have received them through the form via Johanna to emails. If there are no requests of floor for the general discussion, I assume that also all proposals for change have been submitted, or does Emil do have a supporter? When requesting a vote, you don't need a supporter. Yes, but if it's a proposal for change, it needs a supporter. So, this has been the practice that we used. It doesn't affect the fact whether it's a practice that we used, it's in the regulations that if a vote is demanded, it does not require a supporter. That would be good if we would have the supporter if we want to vote. So no request for floor for the general discussion, but if you have something to say about the proposals, please say them now. So no request for floor for proposals for change. Niko Yläpoikkelus, supported by Apurva, Gano. A proposal where to add to the proposed decision that Council requires that the distribution committee. Just to look, and it has to be tied into the rents and income, and to be entitled to the grant. The student has to continue their studies in the autumn. To kind of have a stricter conditions for the application with this proposal for change. Please, no calling out. Also request the floor. So do you want to request the floor? Emil? The interpreter can't hear because the microphone is not on.
Ehdottomasti, eli ensimmäiseksi juurikin äänestetään suorat vastaistukset ja sitten lisäykset tähän päätökseen.
So first we'll have the direct counter proposals and then we will vote on the additions after that. Yes, I'd like to ask you to use the microphone at all times because I can't really hear. Yes, good point. So let's remember to use the microphones. And request for floor. Laitinen skisma. So do we at some time try to learn how to vote with this pensioner edition of Nintendo DS? Yes, you have several buttons there. And hopefully you can know how to press the right buttons.
So in the interim, I will say how this Nintendo DS works. So there's a new system for me as well. So I will press the vote open. You should receive 3 options: yes, no, and empty. Actually, okay, yes, no, and empty. Please press the correct button on the system. This is a test vote, so you may press any one of the buttons. This is visible to everybody, concentrated expressions. Everybody has pressed a button. Notifications that first you need to press 1 when it's registering that you are using this chair, and then you press the button for yes, no, empty. Good instructions. I don't know what the system is like. I don't have one. So does everybody feel like they have been able to vote? According to this, we have 34 votes on the amazing voting system. We should have 33 votes. Well, what does this mean? It seems there is a malfunction on the DS. It's good that we are testing the system. I could not use the system. So let's test the system again, and if this does not work, I will move to a closed ballot vote, but I want to trust that this works. So now opening test vote, still testing, you may vote for one of the buttons on the system. Please do so now. Hopefully everybody has voted. Closing the vote now. Now we have 33 votes. 34 is this system is that I'm marked #1, which is this system here. So we had the correct number of votes on the last. It's the chairperson's vote, and the chairperson is not voting. So, amazing, our system works. Or the Espos system works. Asking the chairperson to get the vote when we get to vote. So next up, the next vote will not be a test vote. This will be the real deal. So you'll vote, and based on this we will make the decision. So yes is the board's template. No is the nothing's being undertaken. We do not carry this out, and empty is empty. The vote begins. Closing the vote. The results are as follows. Short moment. We have 23 yes votes, 10 no votes, and 0 empty votes. So the board's template prevails. Elina get the numbers? Yes, good. Next up we have the second vote on the board's template proposed by the proposal for change by Ulla Poikelos, seconded by Kanu, with this addition of written portion. The Representative Council demands that the committee follows the board's stricter rules. Maximum 3 months rent and 1,500 per member. In addition, to be eligible for the support, you need to continue your studies at the Aalto University for the fall term of 2020. This is pretty quick. Closing the vote. Yes, we have 33 votes. The results are as follows. Yes, 11. No, 21. And 1 empty vote. So the proposal for change carries. Without further ado, I close discussions, and at this stage the Representative Council has been pretty unanimous. Emil has a request for the floor. Dissenting opinion. Remember to send an email within 2 weeks regarding your dissenting opinion. Moving to decide. The motion was that the Representative Council decide to approve the use of AYY's funds for up to 150,000 euros for the allowance applications during the state of the emergency, and appoints the committee and 1 to 2 members of the Representative Council to the allowance distribution committee for the duration of the subsistence application period. At this stage, do we decide the members who are participating? Before we actually move to decide, as we have decided and we vote, we need 2 representatives for this committee. We have requests for the floor. Would also like to leave a dissenting opinion. Solianto, I'm available for the committee. Microphone open. I am available for this committee.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate, be volunteer for this committee as well.
Eli meillä on tällä hetkellä 3
So we have 3 volunteers and we have 2 spots.
jonka päällikkö niin paikkaa. Haluaako joku 3
Does one of them wish to leave themselves out of the committee, or do we need to vote on the subject? Then if we have 3 applicants and 2 spots, then we will of course vote. Can we place 3 members there? Then we would actually change this proposal. What comments, Olli? Get a microphone, yes. I personally do not support 3 members because we have 2 members in the template, and I have not consulted with the rest of the board or our experts in the committee, so I would not start at least planning regarding this kind of item. Request to the floor. No. This is kind of a mysterious. Sorry. My answer no was for Fielman's proposal for 3 members for the committee. I hope that we do not request personal opinions to discuss with other delegates. So, will we vote on this? I hope that we could actually decide this. We have time in the meeting. It's not yet night. We'll have a short break to discuss the voting. Well, so we'll carry out a closed ballot vote. So that maybe take a leak or have a short break here. So yes. So when we have a closed ballot vote, we'll have a transfer of votes, after which we will have a break if you manage to sit down for a moment. Can we get the vote counters here? So we use a transfer of vote system there. The Nintendo DS does not do transfer votes. I also noticed that we have an official vote ballot box somewhere around here. Yay, there is an actual official box. Probably made all kinds of important decisions with the box. You see that the box is empty, like at a magician's show. So Elina will ensure that we have the right amount of slips. So we have the vote will done so that you will be asked here one by one, and especially when we are trying to make these keep social distancing, come in smaller groups to place your ballots in the ballot box. Also write down the surnames of the applicants. So we have 33 eligible votes out of a total of 40. You hand them out. A question. We have pens. vote soon.
Need a pen? Yep.
Kirjata ja tossa on kappulaat. Noin.
kyllä, juurikin näin. Joo. Mennäänpä hetki vielä. Elina
Kehtaako tänne taakke tulla?
No niin, toivottavasti pääsette vähän jalottelemaan äänestystauolla, eiköhän jatketa kokousta.
Yes, let's
Striimi
continue
voi
with the
laittaa
meeting
päälle, jos
after
sitä ei ole vielä laitettu.
break has concluded.
Kyllä. Eli,
Yes.
kiitos äänestyksestä. Haluanko ääntenlaskijat
Thank you for the vote. The vote counters could come up here. Actually, I'll put to the podium where the microphone is to announce the results. Yes, good afternoon or good evening. Thought that it would be easy this time with these digital tools, but they cannot do everything. 33 votes were given, and maybe my partner would like to declare the results.
No niin, eli äänet
Yes,
jakautuivat
so the
tässä
votes are as
tarkistuksessa
follows.
seuraavanlaisesti. Meillä ensimmäisellä paikalla ja
In the first place, 17
äänellä
votes,
herra Ganu.
Mr. Ganu.
Ja toisena toiseksi
And second place,
Soljanto.
Soljanto,
11 äänellä.
11 votes.
Ja sitten kolmanneksi
And third, Filman, 5 votes.
Tässä tulokset, olkaa hyvä.
Here are the results. Thank you. Thank you, vote counters.
Eli sitten seuraavaksi siirrymme
So next, we will move on to make the decision.
vielä erityisesti kiittää edustajistoa.
So I'd like to especially thank the European Council for the patience for this item. And we also had very good, well-prepared speeches here, so thank you for that.
Meillä on esityksenä
So the proposal, the motion, is the European Council decided to approve the use of AYYE funds up to 150,000 euros for the allowance applications during the state of emergency and appoints the committee and 1 to 2 members of the European Council to the allowance distribution committee for the duration of the subsistence application period. And these members of the European Council are Kaisla and Apurva. We also had a proposal that was added, the addition, which I will read out aloud once again. So the addition is about stricter conditions for the application. That the committee adheres to the financial committee's guidelines and that the amount of the grant given should be tied to living expenses, a maximum of 3 months' rent, and also to be allowed to receive this grant, they will need the person needs to continue their studies in autumn 2020. Closing item 10, or is there something to comment? Julius? Yes. Heard this request, because this is a very topic that sparked a lot of debate. I would like to see that in the next European Council, which I think is in September, we could have an update of how much money has been given, so we could know that how much actually money we have distributed. Yes, most definitely we will keep you up to date, for example as part of the news from the central office. Thank you. Now, closing item 10, moving to item 11, confirmation of the decisions of remote meetings of the European Council 4 2020, 5 2020 and 6 2020. Elina, if you may. Yes, thank you. That much in the way of presentation. We'll just confirm these decisions. The microphone is not on. Okay, thank you. Wonderful that we have expert technicians here.
Tosiaan vahvistus.
So, we need to confirm these agendas and the decisions we have made in the remote meetings via Zoom.
Esityksenä ja päätösluettelot on lähetetty teille
And you have been sent
esitteena.
the list of decisions as an appendix
Jokaisesta
with the
kokouksesta
agenda. So, the decisions for each meeting that we made, or that you made.
kokouksessa on päätetty. Ja tämä siis vahvistaa ne
So this confirms these decisions
lainmukaisesti koolla kutsutussa ja
in this our lawful meeting that has quorum. So we can officially confirm them, since the remote meetings were not lawful.
Joo. Ja olen
Yes.
ylioppilaskunnalle hyväntekeväisyytenä juristiapua tekeviltä henkilöiltä nämä tarkistanut.
I've also checked this from law specialists that we should do it as we are about to do. So even though we were almost all representing council members were present, we had quorum, but our regulations do not mention remote meetings, so we have to confirm these in this actual physical meeting. And you have been sent the list of the decisions before the meeting. Because regulations do not mention anything about remote meetings, so that's why we need to do this. So we can make sure that these decisions are lawful. Opening discussion on the item.
Harvinaisen selkeää.
This seems very clear to just confirm decisions we have already made. So the motion is that Council decided to confirm the decisions in accordance with the list of decisions in the appendix. This has been decided. Closing item 11, moving to item 12, other emerging matters.
Onko meillä muita esille tulevia asioita?
Any emerging matters? Lame from Pro Arte. So that's from the previous item. Can we update our regulations so that we can make remote meetings lawful in the future? That's a good question, if Elina could answer it. Yes, if you so wish, we can do that.
Ja ehkä niin kuin toki pyydän, tai haluaisin tietää, että kuinka kiireellisenä
I don't know how urgent do you think this is,
voimme asiaa ottaa.
so we can start preparing it. I don't think we're in much of a hurry, but before the next epidemic wave, that we don't have to have meetings that are not lawful.
Yes. Asiaa voidaan valmistella.
Yes, we can prepare it, and we also check in if there are other needs to update the regulations, because the process for updating regulations requires 2 meetings and also confirmation from the rector. So it's always a very heavy process.
Kyllä, ja on hyvä kuulla, jos edustajista on kokenut meidän
And it's also good to hear that if you have felt that remote meetings have functioned well, of course it's if we are physically in the same space, it kind of allows for more democratic discussion than in remote meetings. But now request the floor. Pollari from Skisma. About this corona subsistence support discussion, one of the arguments was that the decision would create a precedent case, a basis for what our function is in the future. But I hope that all representing council members understand that this affects all decisions we make. So all decisions that we make are in some way based on previous decisions. So if you thought about this here, this present situation, please give the same kind of attention to future decisions as well. Any other emerging matters? Noki from Chem. Are the recordings of the Zoom remote meetings somewhere available? Yes, they were all recorded. It may be that they are not yet uploaded on YouTube, but we are about to do that. So the normal process is that
meidän koneelta äänitetyt ja ne siis tekstitetään ennen kuin ne tulee sinne YouTubeen, mutta mitä pikimiten, niin ovat tulossa sinne kyllä.
is that we record them and subtitle them before uploading them on YouTube. Any other emerging matters?
Siellä. Anteeksi, en heti nähnyt.
Sorry, I didn't see.
Siis siellä.
Over there, yes. Apurva.
Yeah, I just have one point. In the last few emails before this meeting, there was some discussions about the vocabulary used in the statements between the board and certain alliances. I just wanted to ask, has that been discussed, or does that need to be discussed? Because there were some points made by Olli in the emails and also by the different alliances about the extent to which certain words were used and if corrective measures needed to be made there. This was in regards to the statement that was made by the board, which was then brought up for discussion by another alliance.
Onko Olli vasta?
Yeah, I can answer that. So definitely, I encourage you to check out the emails that were sent, so you know what's being discussed about. I'd like to highlight the fact that as stated in the end of my email, that you have the RepCo chairs and vice chairs to help you in any issues like this, and I really encourage all the RepCo members to contact either Suvi or Taneli or Jonas if any concerns like that happen, and I'm happy to answer any further concerns as well if something needs to be answered.
Joo, kiitoksia. Onko vielä muita?
Thank you. Any other emerging matters?
Jos ei ole, niin
Apparently no.
mä haluan kiittää
I'd like to thank all of you for this spring.
ollaan päästy tekemään edustajistotyötä tässä poikkeuksellisessa.
Also for being able to do our representation work in these unexceptional circumstances, and that this has been smooth. Closing item 12, moving to item 13, closing the meeting. Before that, please just a moment, we're about to have a group photo, so don't rush out yet. Closing the meeting at 8:01 p.m. Thank you, and now for the photo.